Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to another episode of A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B. Period. I appreciate you for joining me. Before we get going, let me not forget to ask you to like and subscribe to the channel. Just hit that little like button, then comment and share. Tell me what you think. Especially, this is a good one. What do you? I really want to know what people think about this video. But let's dive in. So I'm recording this on Juneteenth. And so I felt necessary to comment. And so I ran across this video from a guy who loves to talk, always dropping knowledge on the people. Let's take a look. It is Judge Joe Brown. Let's see what Judge got to say about Juneteenth.
Juneteenth was supposed to be June 19th, 1866. Now, what's wrong with that? No, they changed that the last 4 or 5 years to try and cover up the embarrassment. You know what the embarrassment is? 1863, first part of the year, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, February 1863. All right. Next thing, the 13th.
So what he's doing is he's walking us through the process of how we got to Juneteenth is what he's doing for those that haven't figured it out. So it all started with the Emancipation Proclamation. Like you said, February 1863. And then the next step of that is the 13th Amendment.
13th Amendment, freeing the slaves, passed out of the House, got sent to the states, January 1865. All right. Okay. Next thing that happens, January 14th, 1865, General Sherman signs the order as commanding general of his military district, the Black Reparations Act, order, which is 40 acres and a mule to all Black families. All right. Next thing that happens, Lee gets his ass whooped and surrenders at Appomattox Courthouse, April 1865.
So, as I'm going to talk about in just a second, some of the back history, he kind of skipped some parts there. But so the proclamation gets signed in 1863, 13th Amendment passes and gets pushed to the states. But like what he's, I don't know, I guess you could say he's leaving it out or not. But well, from what I was reading, while it got pushed out to the states, not all states were acknowledging the 13th Amendment and the Emancipation Proclamation because in the South, because they were not accepting Abraham Lincoln as their president at the time, they weren't acknowledging the things that he was doing, and so they were ignoring him because, so you know, in some senses, like today, they didn't think of him as the true president.
May 1865, Sherman whips Johnson and gets his surrender. No more Confederate army. May 1865, he sends a cavalry detachment of Black soldiers, cavalrymen, down to Texas to tell these damn fools that the war is over there free. They won't believe the Black folk. May 1865. Not June 1865, but a whole year and a month later, June 19th, 1866, a Union frigate has docked in Galveston, Texas, and naval rank lieutenant, that's like a lieutenant major in the Army, or current lieutenant colonel, asked the stevedores why they are laboring under the lash. And he said, well, we still slaves. He said, fools, you've been free for 3 years from the Emancipation Proclamation. You've been free 2.5 years from the 13th Amendment. You've been free for a year and 2 months from Lee getting his ass whooped. You've been free a year and a month from Johnson getting finally his ass whooped and surrendering. And it's been a year and a month since your fellow black soldiers, some black soldiers told you were free. Now you got to have a white boy tell you you're free? That is so embarrassing. I will never celebrate Juneteenth. I said, you won't celebrate all the hell you want. Damn fools down there being slaves. Oh, I'm so happy. Juneteenth was.
So I came across that video and I had to just, you know, I agree with his sentiment, which is why one of the reasons why I wanted to play the video. But I wasn't able to back up all his facts. So I wasn't able to do that. And so I was curious. I guess maybe if I do a little bit more deep dive, maybe I can get to some of the facts. But from everything that I've read, I mean, it follows the line that we have today, which is June 19th, 1865. If you look here, this is the origins of June. So that's when a battalion, as the story goes, came to tell the slaves in Texas that, according to the Emancipation Proclamation, you guys are free. And so as a result, what did they say? There was approximately, where's that number? About 250,000 black people were being held as slaves in Texas during that time. And so from everything that I've read, all the other states had already freed their slaves, but Texas, these particular slaves hadn't gotten that message until June 19th, 1865. And then at that point, they knew they were free, and, you know, life proceeded from there. Not that it was all glitz and glamour, but life proceeded from there for these people now that they know that they are free. And so if we go back to the history of the celebration, I went and you know, they've been celebrating it in Texas. It's been a state holiday in Texas since the 1980s. That's when they made it a state holiday in Texas. And then Massachusetts followed along in 2007. And then, of course, it became a national holiday for the entire country. I believe the date is June 2021. And so that brings us to today, 3 years of celebrating Juneteenth. And so, as the story goes, the first celebration happened in 1866, and then it was celebrated pretty regularly every year up until the 20th century, it says, and then it kind of died down in the early part of the 20th century, picked back up a little bit in the mid part, and then, like I said, back in the 70s, it picked up again, and in Texas, it was made a state holiday in the 1980s, and then they've been celebrating it ever since. And then they call her the grandmother of Juneteenth. Her name is Opal Lee. She's a teacher out of Texas. She's been advocating to get it on the national level, which finally happened, of course, in June 2021. So that's the history. But I do have a question, and this is a sincere question on my part. Because I honestly don't see the significance of Juneteenth. I've been pondering this for quite some time. What is the significance of Juneteenth? And here's my background on that, and at least my philosophy as to why I don't get it. So if we're talking about what established freedom in this country, freedom in this country was first established by the Emancipation Proclamation, 1863. Cool. Then, of course, the 13th Amendment, 1865, sort of officially barred it from everything. So if we're going to celebrate a day of freedom, why are we not celebrating the day the Emancipation Proclamation was created? Or perhaps even the day the 13th Amendment was created? It doesn't make sense to me why the national holiday is when supposedly, according to the story, I'll take them at their word, the last slaves were announced to be free. And then even in that, what does that even mean? They call it the Freedom Day. What does that even mean? Because even if we look at that as, maybe let's say the day that freedom happened or freedom began, we didn't really see freedom in this country until it was probably 100 years or more, if by some argument. Heck, there's some people that say we don't have freedom today. so in 2024, they're saying we don't have freedom. So what exactly is it representing to make it a significant day for African Americans? Or for Black people. I just don't understand the logic. I mean, because let's be honest. The only reason why it's a national holiday is because post George Floyd in 2020, we were out to find things to, I'm going to say, pacify Black people. So there was a police bill that they were trying to pass in the wake of George Floyd. Then, of course, we saw during the Black Lives Matter movement was very big during that time, right? And everybody need to listen to Black people during that time. And then so they had the police reform bill. We saw Congress members, white and Black and Hispanic, whatever, wearing kente cloths around their necks in the Capitol building, kneeling. And then eventually we got to the unanimous passing of the Juneteenth holiday in 2021. Because why? Because, we were doing stuff for Black people. But it's a holiday that I still find insignificant because it wasn't even acknowledged nationally until after George Floyd. So it held no significance to anyone because it wasn't a national movement to make Juneteenth a holiday until after George Floyd. I went over 40 years of my life without even knowing about Juneteenth until after George Floyd. And so now I'm supposed to take Juneteenth as this special day in my life for the next 40, 50, 60 years, whatever God decides to give me. For what? It held no significance, and it still holds no significance in my life. It's just one of these things that it's kind of like, as I see it, I hold it up to the things that Democrats do. Is during election season, they come up with these ideas of things that have to be done to pacify the Black vote. And so they come up with lists and ideas. And like I said, at the time, we had George Floyd going on. And so that was a big deal. And so they were searching for all these things to do for Black people. And here comes this older lady doing the whole march from Fort Worth all the way to Washington, D.C. with this idea of a holiday for Black people. And yeah, let's put that on the list. Because now we got this special day just for Black people that President Biden put into law. And I'm sure if you go you look at the list of accomplishments as he's going into the re-election year of things he's done for Black people, Juneteenth is at the top 5. But I'm going to ask again, what's the significance? Our lives aren't changed. Our lives aren't made better. Now, supposedly, the whole country acknowledges someday that the last group of slaves in Texas finally figured out that they were free. Okay. It wasn't the bill, because nobody ever thought to celebrate the day the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. We never thought about that. Nobody's ever made that suggestion. Nobody's ever thought about the day the 13th Amendment was put in place. Nobody's ever made that suggestion. And so if you're not even acknowledging the two most important days in the history of the country in terms of freedom, you're going to acknowledge the last day that a slave found out? Like, seriously? Make it make sense. Help me. And that's my question. Why is this supposed to be important? Why is this significant? If the day the Emancipation Proclamation was signed is insignificant, if the day the 13th Amendment was signed into the Constitution is insignificant, why is June 19th significant? Make it make sense. And on that note, I'm B. Period, and I'm out.